Hello my friends, Simon Miller here. Apologies for the lack of video content recently. I'm just going to give you the boring stuff to get it out the way. I am of course in America right now, rehearsing for the Last Match musical, which is about to go on tour through the East Coast, but I promise you, we will get back to regular scheduling very soon, especially because in the last 24 hours, Rhea Ripley walked out onto Monday Night Raw and she told us, hey ho, I'm injured, and I gotta vacate the damn tile. Now straight away the big discussion has been, well, if people like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins were able to keep their championship when they weren't competing weekly, what's the deal with Rhea Ripley? Well, I actually think it ties in to the overall story. Now, I don't know, I'm just speculating, and yes, if I am completely wrong, it should be the same for everyone. It shouldn't make a blind bit of difference. When I actually watched Raw, I was like this. Rhea Ripley apparently is going to be out for anywhere from 3 to 4, maybe even 5 months. That is basically half a year, which is quite a long time. But quite clearly before all this happened, she was going to be feuding with Liv Morgan, who has most definitely gone heel, that we'll also talk about in just 1 second. And listen, I would have enjoyed Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. There's certainly a story there, because yes, in the ultimate of ironies, it was Rhea that injured Liv and took her out for 8 months, and then Morgan came back from TV and was like, haha, I'm going to get revenge, and she quite literally did it, even though wrestling is predetermined. But that's what I mean. I think this is one of those real-life situations that WWE has realised they can benefit from, because, like I say, Liv versus Rhea would have been a 5 program. Morgan could have been like, hey ho, you injured me, I'm not very happy with you. And Rhea could have been like, well, I think you're an absolute goober, and I don't care. They would have had a 2 or 3 match program, whatever it may be, could have even been a 1 and done. Rhea would have won, and then we would have gone into everything else. But now, and again, this is why I think maybe somebody said to Rhea, hey ho, go home, and we will take the title from you. We somehow coronate Liv Morgan, or we can give it to someone else, but eventually it goes to Liv Morgan. We double down on the fact she's a bad guy. So now when Rhea Ripley comes back, she can be like, oh my gosh, you absolute Poindexter, you're the person that took the championship from me, even though you never pinned me for the 1, 2, 3. And now you could have this big old program, which I think actually people will buy into even more, because as soon as Liv Morgan had done this, or at least on the following week's Raw, because apparently it happened in the 1 7 days before that when just randomly Liv threw Rhea into a wall. So it was a proper freak accident. But given that she was tweeting, ha ha, goodbye, I'm glad I did this to you, I don't care, you absolutely suck, and you did this to me and therefore you deserved it, of course people started to boo, because Rhea Ripley, not only in terms of the women's division, but in WWE in general, is a massive star. So if you do put the quote-unquote heat on Liv Morgan, of course the audience is going to be pissed off, because they don't want Rhea Ripley to go away right now. I mean, even though she was portraying a bad guy, quite clearly she wasn't, which is why she also got cheered at WrestleMania, and Becky Lynch got some boos. So now you can actually probably make Liv Morgan more interesting than she has been for a while. And I guess that's not her fault, it's just she's come back into sort of a world where she needed a little bit of something extra, a little bit more edge, not Adam Copeland, he went to AEW. And I think this is the way to do it, especially because, look, I've always been a fan of Liv. I think that the World Championship reign she had a couple of years ago, whatever it was just not given the right time of day. It wasn't given the right story. But maybe in terms of her babyface character, we had done as much as we possibly could do. So I never presumed that she would be a heel, but now acting the way she is acting and the way she's all made up about this, I think works really well, especially because she can go all Drew McIntyre with this. Firstly, she could get entered into the Hater of the Year awards, because this was pure hate, no matter how you put it. But also, she has something that actually makes sense, and that always winds the fans up, because she's 100% correct. She only did this to Rhea because Rhea did this to her, and that kind of stirs emotion up inside our tum-tums, because we're like, well, we don't like the fact that it happened to Rhea, but also Liv is making a good point, and when you have that kind of, I don't know, thing pulling away at your stomach, it just allows you to hate Liv Morgan even more, because she's telling you the truth, and you don't want to hear it. Now, I do want to point out, of course, somebody getting injured is never good. I hope that Rhea Ripley can get back twice as fast, put her on the John Cena schedule, so she can be back sooner rather than later. We've seen it time and time again, right? It happened with CM Punk, it happened with John Cena, it happened with Triple H back in the day, and a bunch of other people I'm not going to run down a list of here. Sometimes, I mean, it made Becky Lynch's career, right, as I interrupt myself, but sometimes, yes, you can come back, and because absence makes the heart grow fonder, and because WWE can run video packages and sell the Nightmare as like the queen of everything, when she does come back, she'll actually be a bigger star. So if you do that, maybe somehow it's at Survivor Series. I'm just pulling a pay-per-view premium live event out my ass. You do Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, you have Rhea Ripley win, and then you just double down on the babyface turn, and you just say, hey, yeah, you can cheer her now, and then you can just rule the division for however long that she's going to do it. And I can only presume that WWE was going to do that eventually. But now that this has fallen in their lap, I think, yeah, when she does make a good comeback, we just put her on that John Cena or Cody Rhodes right now pedestal within the WWE, and we send her off to the moon. Now, I want to point out, double down on it, because sometimes people misconstrue this stuff. No, I never want anyone to get hurt, and mentally, it's going to be the worst for her, because she knows she was on the top of the world. But if we do get this right and we make sure that we make a moment out of it, it is actually going to serve her way down the line. So of course, this opened Raw. It absolutely sucked, but I just hope we can make the best of an absolutely awful situation. But more importantly, let's not forget the person, the human being behind Rhea Ripley, and I hope she is doing okay. I mean, she's going to be in a great position either way because she just gets it. And go and listen to all of her peers say about her. Anyone that has sent her good wishes has said things like, oh man, you're going to be back better than ever. And then in brackets, I think Bianca Belair did this. She was like, that actually scares me because you're already so good. So I am excited about this because I think we could make Liv Morgan something bigger than she already was. And I think Rhea Ripley is going to come back as just like a super duper whooper star. And that's where she was headed anyway. And again, we may look back in hindsight and go, oh my gosh, can you believe it? This actually, maybe even helped steered other things in the way that maybe the WWE wanted to take it, such as the Judgment Day. Sounds to me like we're already teasing that Damian Priest may be about to go babyface ever since he won the World Heavyweight Championship, especially because we had this amazing video on Raw that just made you go, wow, Damian, I really like you. And of course, Finn Balor is a bit like, well, I'm not really happy about the fact we're not going after the World Tag Team titles anymore. And as for you, Dominic Mysterio, I am no friend of yours. And he hasn't said that, but that is the insinuation. So by the time she does come back, the Judgment Day could have been broken up. We'll have some heels, we'll have some faces. And Rhea can even use that to say, see, I told you I was the linchpin all of this. Therefore, you must give me all of the love in the world. So, out of disaster, sometimes there is opportunity, and I hope the WWE does capitalize on this. But yes, it absolutely sucks. When I heard about it earlier in the day, because it broke on social media first, I was just like, man, that is so unfair. And out of all the people, because let's not pretend otherwise, I'm pretty sure that Becky Lynch at one point was written in to defeat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 40. It was an awesome match, but then they were like, we can't take the belt off Rhea right now because she's just too hot like Zoolander. But these things happen, and these things are ultimately set to tries, but it will probably result, like I say, in the end of the Judgment Day, so everyone can go off in their own directions, and we can build what the group was set out to do to begin with and turn them into individual stars, including Damian Priest, because let's not forget, he has a very interesting match at Backlash because he's going to be taking on Jay Uso, and given that Cody has recently made it very clear that until the draft he's going to be a SmackDown guy, I mean, he does have the SmackDown title, we do now need to start establishing who our top guys on Raw are going to be. I mean, we've got Seth Rollins, but he's away for the minute. Drew McIntyre, when the summer comes around or this late spring, he'll definitely be doing it too. Same with CM Punk and other people that I haven't have mentioned. And I kind of have a feeling that Jay Uso may have been put into this spot now because he's not going to beat Damian Priest. I think that will be reserved for Drew McIntyre at Clash of the Castle Part 2. Because given what happened on SmackDown with Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa and apparently Jacob Fatu about to join the Bloodline, you'd have to figure that maybe Jay and Jimmy are going to get back together. Because when Jay was asked about this on Raw, he was like, oh man, my brother, even though they had that big old fight. So maybe they actually will reunite them as a tag team to do the Bloodline Civil War, which I'm kind of in two worlds in. I mean, I want the Bloodline storyline to continue, still doing crazy ratings, and it's still mega interesting. But I do think Jay Uso has an upside as a single star. So I hope whatever we do, we don't forget about that, and we just try him out with a championship. Not the world title for now, but I do think it would be a good experiment. And how awesome is that going to be? Because you have to presume that Roman will be the third guy down the line, maybe at Survivor Series when we do War Games. So you have Roman Reigns and the Usos taking on Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Solo Sikoa. And if you do want to add some extra people in there, you could even have a mini reunion with Sami Zayn. Now look, that's a very hard story to tell, but there is a way to do it, especially because Sami Zayn keeps telling us is the ultimate underdog, and he's so damn sympathetic. And just because they have brought his name up now, we'll just do a terrible segue. The main event of Raw, which was Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable, I thought was absolutely excellent. This is one of the best main events that Raw has done in absolutely ages, and that's not taking anything away from anything else. I just thought it was that high up there. And it's so nice to see the fact that the gloves are off a little bit. Not only with the production, we had that amazing Sami Zayn entrance, but the matches too feel less WWE style and more, well, what are we catering here for in terms of the two wrestlers we have in the ring? And at one point, Chad Gable got dropped right on his head. They did a moonsault into an ankle lock before, of course, gets the haluva kick, 1, 2, 3. And just as Sami is about to celebrate with his wife, Chad Gable gave him a German suplex on the outside, gave him the ankle lock using Rhea the ring post, and apparently, fueled by his hatred about what Gunther did to his child when she was crying, decided to inflict that revenge on Sami Zayn, which I guess is the theme of WWE right now. Everyone's Batman. Everybody wants revenge. But I think Chad Gable really needed this. And the cool thing is, it sounds like he's going to have a mega evil stable as well, because on the internet, not only did Tozawa come out and say, hey, I trust you, boss, but the Creeds have started dropping Chad Gable's catchphrases. What is it? Ready, willing, and Gable. So If you have a heel stable of the Creeds, who obviously were training with Chad Gable that we saw on Raw 2, Tozawa, which is a bit interesting, but hey man, let's switch some people around. And like I say, Chad Gable, and maybe you could even throw Otis in there. Like, you could have something new, why the hell not? It could be your muscle behind the thing. I think that could be awesome. And actually, if you wanted to change the Intercontinental title and give Chad Gable a little bit of a run, I wouldn't be adverse to that at all, because if we're not going to take it off Cody, and we do have all these other long runs happening elsewhere, I would change the tag team titles that we saw brand new versions of on Raw as well, and I would change the IC belt. Sami Zayn can win it back at SummerSlam, should you so wish. But given that Gunther and Cody and Roman Reigns and Rhea as well had these championships for so long, I think coming out of WrestleMania, you don't want to go too far the other way, but you just want to re-establish to the fans, yes, these things can change hands when you don't expect it. And again, it ties back in to the AJ Styles Shinsuke Nakamura feud from years and years ago. Nakamura turned heel, and it was a waste of time because he never got anything from it, apart from a bunch of random DQs because he liked punching AJ Styles in the dick. Chad Gable turns into Darth Vader, and then he wins the Intercontinental Championship. Not only does it kind of underline why he would have a bunch of followers, because they're like, oh my gosh, you know what you're doing, but once again, it justifies the fact that he did turn to the dark side. So all of that was absolutely tremendous. I'm very excited about it. And of course, eventually we have to get into the Drew CM Punk stuff, which we teased on Raw, but we didn't really go fully fledged with. And Seth Rollins will be back eventually too. I think he's taking 4, 5, 6 weeks off. I think The Rock said it best this week. If we are talking about MVPs of WrestleMania weekend, it is absolutely Seth Rollins, who continues to just be an underrated gem in general. He's one of these dudes that is so good consistently, and he's always so happy to do the correct job for the company that I don't think we give him enough praise. So I wanted to shout him out as well. But yeah, there was so much good on Raw, including even Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae turning heel. Why the flub not? We've got a bunch of heel turns at the moment, but it makes them way more interesting than they were. And I think the only thing that doesn't really seem to have a direction was the Piper Niven and Chelsea Green versus Caden Carter and Katana Chance match. But both of these teams just need something extra. I'm sure eventually it's going to result in a tag team title defense for the Kabuki Warriors before Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair probably finally win those titles, which is perfectly fine by me. But Raw at the moment is so well served to, no matter where you are on the card, making sure that you do have a focus. I think if we are going to have other teams being inserted in there, we just want to make sure everyone knows what they're doing, right? It just makes it so much more interesting. And the coolest thing about WWE at the moment is usually this would be the lull, right? April and May was always like, oh man, who wants to watch WWE right now? Nothing is happening. But that's not the case. We're taking this momentum. The fact we went to Montreal and we had Sami Zayn in the main event and a heel turn, that was absolutely excellent. And as we keep saying, they are on fire right now. I think there was like 14,000 people or 12, a lot of people, right? 10,000 plus people in that building on Monday night. And if WWE can keep doing this and keep rolling with the punches, such as a Rhea Ripley getting injured or going, hey, we should turn Chad Gable heel, then hell yeah, especially because before all this, we also saw Bronson Reed say to the IC guys, I want to come after that championship. So we now have to figure out how he's going to get in there as well. So yes, just really, really good stuff across the board. SmackDown was awesome too. Like I say, I love the fact that Tama Tonga has debuted in WWE. I mean, it's somewhat of a double-edged sword for one Simon Miller, because back in the day, he did try and kill me. You can check that video out right now on What Culture Wrestling. But there is a guy that has put in the time, he's put in the work, he's consistently got better and better. And I tell you, he will absolutely smash this. And whether or not Solo Sikoa is the brand new tribal chief, or it turns out The Rock is actually pulling the strings, which means not only do we get Cody versus The Rock, which they continue to tease, but we also get The Rock versus Roman Reigns down the line as well, then man, that could be 2 years worth of WrestleMania storylines, especially because Dwayne Johnson did a video recently saying that he's probably only going to work WrestleManias, although I'm sure you could see him at a Saudi Arabia show or even a SummerSlam or Royal Rumble. We just don't know. But WWE they can lose people right now. They could actually suffer an injury, even though once again, I'd rather that didn't happen, and they can just keep on ticking. And that's because they have doubled down and they have reinvested in making sure, like I say, at every single level, there is somebody that you're interested in, or somebody that can be in star, or somebody that can be a champion. Like, if we did make Jay Uso the champion, beating Damian Priest, I don't think it's the right time, but I don't think he would be the wrong person. He's mega over, and you just need to figure out a way to make that click for everyone. I know a lot of people were a bit sour about the Jimmy versus Jay Uso match versus WrestleMania. I haven't gone back and watched it yet. I saw it live in the building. I didn't think it was terrible. I think I probably would have given it an arbitrary 3-star rating or something like that. I mean, maybe it didn't click as people expected, but yeah, I felt that was a little bit negative Nancy. But again, you're totally allowed your own opinion. But never in my wildest dreams would I put Jay Uso in that bracket sort of 2-3 years ago. So the fact that he has, used the bloodline to turn himself into that kind of a star, I think is awesome. So yeah, very, very excited about what we do at the Backlash pay-per-view, because of course, it's going to be a premium live event. It is in France, so you're going to have an electric crowd. And yeah, you do Cody versus AJ Styles, I've got no problem with that. AJ Styles is a credible opponent, even though he did lose at WrestleMania. Cody can beat him, and then he goes on to face whoever the flub he is going to face. I kind of think that it may be Gunther, hence why Gunther has gone away for a while, and he's going to rise from the deep. But it could be Sheamus too. Like I say, it feels like Cody's gone to Friday night, and Sheamus is definitely a Raw guy, but he returned, he whooped Ivar's ass, and it was just wonderful to have him back. And I've always said this, Sheamus is a guy that doesn't get the appreciation that he does deserve, and I was always worried that he'd retire, and then people go, oh man, we really should have loved Sheamus more. But now, because he has been away, I hope that we do it now. So yes, very, very excited about the future for WWE. Very, very excited about when Rhea Ripley is able to come back, because I think this could turn out for the best, as awful as that sounds, but hopefully I have explained myself. And I hope that Liv Morgan benefits from it too, because the more stars that we can have, the more we can pimp out that division. As Becky Lynch has said, it doesn't always have to be about titles. We should be able to just have random stories like we do with the men's matches. And I mean, I think the titles that are flagging there the most at the moment, the women's tag team title, and make sure we sort it out there too. I think that would be good. But otherwise, you know the deal. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, click the bell ding ding so you know other videos are going live. There will be a video on the screen. Give that a click and I'll make sure we get another one up sooner rather than later. Otherwise, patreon.com/Simon316, grillermine.com/Simon. Use code Simon, get 10% off. I'd appreciate that very much. Simon316 on Instagram and Twitter. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller on Cameo. And I have merchandise as well. Basically, have a look in that description below and interact as much as you possibly can. Thank you for bearing with me and thank you for all the support. I don't want any of my opportunities to go away, but I also want to add strings to my bow. I'm very, very tired, so I'm sure a lot of this was gibberish. Take care, my friends. See you soon.